Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. Welcome to the Depression Recovery Channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. Today is Flashback Friday, a feature in which I republish one of my earlier videos you might not have seen that contains really important coping strategies that will help you attain a better mood. Now here's today's video. The title of today's talk is How to Overcome Loneliness. This is the second in a three-part series I'm doing right now called The Quest to Connect. Part one was called Social, Why Our Brains and Bodies Are Hardwired to Connect. And if you didn't see it, I've posted a link to it in the description section of this video. Before we begin, of course, we have to tell our jokes. And as I mentioned last time, I'm spreading these videos apart because I have a book project. And so you're going to get three puns at once. What a surprise. What a wonderful thing. And here they are. One tectonic plate bumped into another and said, "Sorry, my fault." I belong to the Flat Earth Society. We have members all around the globe. The third joke just appeared in my comments section yesterday. I went ahead and printed it out. It was sent by one of you fans, which I really appreciate. I woke up this morning feeling terrible. I told my wife, when I look in the mirror, all I see is a tired, gray old man. Please give me a compliment. She quickly replied, "Well, your eyesight is nearly perfect." Pretty nice, huh? I wish it weren't so true. All right, now getting to our topic, how to overcome loneliness. Well, you know, we talked about the quest to connect, and we talked about social, how we need attachment figures nearby us. And so when those attachment figures are not around, we get lonely. And to me, it's the most painful thing I've ever experienced, as you'll see in a minute. But I wanted to distinguish between two kinds of loneliness. One is called objective loneliness. That's when you're actually isolated and not around people. The other is called subjective loneliness. This is when you have the feeling of being alone, even when other people are present. You're not actually alone, but it feels like it. And this is an emotional rather than a physical state, and it's just as painful as the other one. For me, being lonely is the most painful emotion I've experienced. In fact, it triggered my first depressive episode at the age of 18. It happened when I left home and moved away to college 400 miles away. Now, I'm one of the few people I know who actually liked high school. I was good in the classroom. It came easily to me. And I loved having like continuous classes, one after the other, continuous structure. I developed friends. After school, we played sports, one-on-one basketball, etc. Then I got to watch my favorite TV shows. Next day, the thing happened all over again. But when I got to college, it was very different. There were these large gaps of unstructured time. Classes were only intermittent. And when I did go to a class, there were like 500 people in a lecture hall. How are you going to meet someone there, especially when you were very shy and withdrawn like I was? And so I felt more and more isolated, more and more alone. I remember sitting in my dorm room by myself, feeling like, I was incredibly homesick, and I felt like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I want to go home. I just want to go home. I said that over and over like a mantra. I just want to go home. Now, those of you who watched the first video in this three-part series called Social, remember that when a mammal is separated from its attachment figure, it experiences what is called the physiology of despair. And that's what happened with me. My sleep got disrupted. I lost my appetite. I couldn't concentrate. All the symptoms of depression. Eventually, my grades started to go down. Unheard of for me. He was a straight-A student. And so the teachers, the counselors got word. I was referred to the college mental health center, and I was diagnosed with clinical depression and put into a group and basically treated until I left school, which was the next year. I just couldn't stay there. Now, it's interesting that I later learned through mentoring a bunch of young people that many people have their first break, whether it's depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, between the ages of 18 and 25. And I find it interesting that that's when they leave home. And of course, that would make sense, right? The separation from the attachment figures. I remember somebody in some other country said, "You Americans are just so cruel the way you have your children leave home so early." Maybe it was in one of the old world where everybody still had extended families. But they're right. It's a really big stressor when you leave home as an 18-year-old, as a teenager, and try to make it. And so many millennials I know have moved back with their parents for economic reasons as well. So, yeah, fortunately, I was able to get some help. To me, loneliness is about the feeling of being disconnected. It's also a major symptom of depression, right? Feeling disconnected from the world, from other people, and above ourselves. So the first step in overcoming loneliness is learning or relearning to connect with yourself. This first means having compassion for yourself. It's not your fault that you have depression or anxiety. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just something you're having to deal with. And remember, it's not who you are. It's what you are encountering on the outside. So release the shame. You're a good person, even though you're dealing with this, and be compassionate, be kind to yourself, because one of the other symptoms of depression is, what is it called? I think I wrote it down here. Feelings of worthlessness and inappropriate guilt, which means, again, you feel really horribly about yourself. And this leads to negative self-talk, such as, you're a loser, you can't do anything right, what a schmo. And, this just compounds the feeling of just being, worthless, and enhances the experience of disconnection. So when you hear these negative voices beating yourself up, talk back to that inner critic. Tell it to get lost. Tell it to go to hell. Or better yet, even say, cancel, cancel. That stops those words in their tracks, and replace them immediately with something else like, I'm basically a good person. I'm doing the best I can. And I like what they say in AA, God doesn't make junk. As one of my group members told me, quote, I had to stop abusing myself with the words in my head. I love that. I had to stop abusing myself with the words in my head. And this was the first step, she said, in getting to the point where I could become my own best friend. The second step in overcoming loneliness, once you're starting to connect more with yourself, is to reach out for support. Now, this is especially important if you're experiencing what we called earlier objective loneliness, meaning the loneliness of being physically isolated. Remember what we said in video 1, human beings are by nature social animals. And this is precisely why people come to my depression support groups, many of them. Many of them are single, they live alone, they don't have family in the area, they feel quite isolated, and they're seeking something called community. That's why they come to groups, to be around other people going through the same struggles, to hear what they have to say, to share, things that work. And this is exactly what occurs in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Where we come together to experience something, hope and faith. I forgot the first word, but anyway, it's all about what they call the fellowship. Another way to connect with people are through meetup groups, meetup.com. Hopefully, as your depression lifts, you will find things more pleasurable, and you will want to get more involved with pleasurable activities. So this means, going to a group like a meetup group where you can pursue an interest that is shared by other people. And sometimes this actually leads to unexpected connections. I have a friend who is very depressed. She went to a meditation meetup group, and there she became friends with someone, and pretty soon they became partners. So, again, associating with people who have the same interest can lead to unexpected connections. Of course, you can do this through taking a class, volunteering, attending a place of worship, many times or many ways in which you can put yourselves in communications and in communities where you are affiliated with other people. In addition, maybe some of you are isolated geographically and you can't find a meetup group or can't, get out of the house for various reasons. Well, you can try to bring your support into your home by finding an online support group, or just as good, having a pet. I never got until I started this series why people become so bonded to their pets, their cats, their dogs, and other kinds of pets. It's because of, again, mammals. We have this limbic system. We have this limbic regulation. So people tell me they sleep with their cats, they sleep with their dogs. They're like children. And during their dark times, when people are going through difficult times, desperate times, they sometimes need reasons to stay alive. Well, mothers will say it's because of my children, but people will also say it's because of my dogs and my cats. And, Bruce, the cat, you may think he's just a dumb old cat, but guess what? Every time at the close of our support group, when we do go in a circle and do the Serenity Prayer, he walks right into the middle of the circle and goes like this and makes contact with everybody, eye contact with everybody. It is uncanny. I mean, you got to know that this cat is tuning in. As I said, we are all mammals and we need this kind of connection. But imagine my surprise one day. Doesn't have to be, pets do not have to be limited to mammals. When a woman came to my support group, sat down, and I didn't notice at first, but on her left shoulder was a parrot, a trained parrot. Sat there very patiently listening to everybody's processing. I'm sure enjoyed it. I want to take a moment now and talk about blocks to asking for support. No, I don't mean Douglas Bloch. I mean obstacles, blocks to asking for support. And even though people with depression and anxiety need more support than the average person, ironically, they have the hardest time asking for it. And there are a number of reasons for this. One is natural shyness, not feeling deserving. Why would anyone want to support a wretch like me? Fear of being rejected or ridiculed. Hopelessness, it won't matter anyway. And shame, feeling embarrassed about asking for help. So to overcome this, you may want to say to yourself, I am worthy of, asking for support. I do deserve support. I do deserve love. But you might have a voice coming back in your head saying, nope, you're not. This is probably due to childhood conditioning. Because remember I talked about the early imprinting from caregivers when you're young? Well, if that imprinting was, negative, put downs, or worse yet, lack of attention, you're going to have this unworthiness. This is where it's a good time to go ahead and find a counselor, a therapist that you can start seeing and really experience and take in that love from that unconditional loving presence. The therapist, the counselor, giving you what you never got when you were younger. And this is why the great psychiatrist M. Scott Peck said, and I so believe this is true, that all therapy is really about reparenting. It's certainly been my case, and this is why once your therapist gives you that love, you can start giving it to yourself and even more to other people. This has been Douglas Bloch. I hope you found the information on this Flashback Friday video helpful. If so, please give it a like, as likes draw more and more people to this channel and hopefully some more subscribers. You can also leave your comments in the comments section or email me, douglasbloch@gmail.com. If you do want to subscribe to this channel, click on my photo in the closing credits. You'll be taken to my subscribe page. And if you click on the bell to the right, you'll be notified every time I do a new video or live chat. And if you want to contribute to this channel and become a patron, simply click on the Patreon image. You'll be taken to my crowdfunding site. And until next video, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you so much.